Welcome into the February 2nd edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Groundhog Day. I'm Mike DiStefano. Got Dave Morassutti with me as the Leafs fall to Boston in the final game ahead of the NHL All-Star Break. We'll break down the loss and go over some house cleaning news around the Maple Leafs. All that more coming up on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let there be light. Let there be light, they said. I don't know why I felt like doing that, Dave. I really don't know why.
I think it's because when we were preparing, I kind of noted that it was kind of a cool silhouette effect.
Yeah. And then I decided to do it. But, it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And Groundhog Day is always kind of eerie. Remember the movie where just the same thing happened over and over and over again? And I feel like that's what this Maple Leaf season has been. The exact same things happening over and over and over again, right? Started off pretty poor October, amazing November where the goaltending was just fantabulous. And then it kind of, was a decent December and January. There was a little rut where the goaltending started to go awry. It's really just seems very much like a similar carbon copy season to what it was a year ago. And if you go and you look at the records, they're very much the same as to what it was from this season compared to last season. Welcome into Locked On Leafs podcast, by the way. It's your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Got my co-host Dave Morassutti with me from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. So be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also check us out on video. We're up on YouTube each and every day, Monday through Friday, with new content for you. Just subscribe to Locked On Leafs. It's all Leafs all the time. And this episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook of the Locked On Network. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Well, Dave, the Maple Leafs end the first, it's not really the first half, I guess then the pre-All-Star season with a loss, 5-2 loss to the big bad Boston Bruins. I thought that they were in it pretty much through the first couple of periods, and then things started to unravel and looked like they may have had an eye on Cabo in the third period there, got a little unfocused, and, things kind of got away from them there.
Yeah, no, just a little bit. It was our third period was hard to watch.
Yeah,
That might have been. That reminds me a lot about the Seattle game where you could just tell one team was just trying to get through the rest of the game, and another team was just like, all right, we're just gonna do what we want.
Yeah,
basically what happened there.
Yeah, no, it was. I thought that, Toronto did play pretty well through the first couple periods. They were in it for sure. It was entertaining hockey. The underlying numbers would suggest that Toronto was the better team through the first couple periods. And at the end of the day, I think it came down to a couple things. I think the goaltending on Boston, A+ night for Linus Ullmark.
Yeah.
On the Toronto side, not so much. Not a good night for Ilya Samsonov. I mean, he started out pretty good, actually. Made some quality saves to start the game. He was tested early and often the first period, and then it just kind of went downhill from there. I mean, that fourth goal in particular, the one that was 4-on-4, Pavel Zacha scored it right after Yarncroke had made it 3-2 and kind of got the Leafs back into it. That's not a goal you can allow. And that's kind of where the game, basically, it was curtains. A few minutes later, Zacha was all alone at the side of the net, cross ice one-timer. Made it 5-2, and then it was really game over from there on out.
Yeah, I thought the Yarncroke goal was going to get them going because it came not long after. I mean, there was the fight, then Yarncroke scored. They're down by 1. Still a lot of time left in the third period, but they did the exact thing you should never do when you get the goal is just take your foot off the gas and allow. And yeah, part of it, Samsonov has to have that shot there. The Leafs also just willingly allowed Zacha to have point blank chance on net right there.
Dude, I don't understand what the hell happened there. Like TJ Brody was just, he malfunctioned, like just a complete brain malfunction, got himself out of the way of Pavel Zacha essentially. And it was a point blank shot that went, top corner, glove hand, Samsonov doing his best Matt Murray impression. But like, that's one that you got to have, like a seeing eye shot from 50 feet out. I don't care where it's placed. You got to have that. If you're, especially moments after your team just made it 3-2 and maybe got a bit of momentum back.
Exactly. It's what this game really showed is a lack of situational awareness.
Yeah.
Right. Boston has very good situational awareness, right? And
they do, but was it not bizarre to you seeing AJ Greer give Simmons that fight right after he had scored to make it?
I don't know why he thought that was a good idea.
Like that's not a good time to fight.
No, not at all. Like you're taught, and really, when you see Wayne Simmons come over to the bench, somebody should have maybe vindicated from the Bruins bench, coach staff say, if this guy challenged you to a fight, don't accept it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's like. Simmons did exactly what he was supposed to do there, which is, all right, they just got that goal. Leafs were playing very laxadays, so they needed something to pick them up, and the Bruins gave it to them in that regard. Like, I don't know why, and AJ Greer didn't exactly put up like he
got
disconnected controllers, I guess what the kids call it nowadays. He literally was just standing, his arm wasn't doing anything. I think Simmons was just like, is he gonna are we fighting? Like, am I allowed to punch? And he just starts wailing on him, just like,
Can we grab the fight maybe? I think Tic Tac Tomar probably has it on Twitter. Omar probably has it. So I'm sure we could play that GIF without getting, fined or whatever the hell happens whenever we put up copyright issues and whatnot. I think we're good if it's like a tweet of a GIF. But it was a really bizarre fight because like he connected early, big time, and then let's watch it here for a sec because. He squares up. This is right after he scored. Like, this is literally the puck drop right after.
He almost falls, but then...
And then he's just taking it. Like, I'm surprised Simmons kept going, to be honest with you. Like, after...
refs didn't step in as soon as he almost...
Yeah, right? Like, after 2 or 3 feeds, like, you can see right here, he pops him.
Right there.
And then...
The refs got to stand... Like, the refs got to get in there because...
Well, I think I'm okay here, but then about here, like... That's 4 whacks at the dude's chin. I mean, you could have got in there after the first or second when you realized this guy's just chilling. Like, he wasn't moving at all, and Simmons has reach. Like, he was just connecting on his chin, and he ended up concussion spotter came and pulled him during one of the whistles. So he ended up going. I think he returned to the game. But, yeah, that was that's the only, I guess, thing I would say where it wasn't necessarily situational awareness for Boston. After you make it 3-1, you probably don't want your goal scoring drop of the mitts with Wayne Simmons in Toronto and a chance to get their momentum back, because that is what happened. Like, that building popped. It's allowed to say it popped all night. Like, I was down there, and it ultimately led to Yarncroc scoring that goal, and then we know what happened after that. So it did work. It really got the Leafs back on track, I suppose. It got a little bit of life back into that building, and it started to tilt the ice a little more. And then again, after the Yarncroc goal, it was the Pavel Zacha goal that just really ended things for the Leafs tonight. It was, not a good look for Samsonov to give that one up, but is what it is. Trying to think what was one other what else did you pull up from tonight's game?
Well, when the Bruins did exactly what I think they wanted to do in this game, which was like, they don't need to dominate possession to beat the Leafs. We saw it in the last game where the Leafs make a bad decision, it goes the other way, Bruins score. In this game, it was almost, you saw some of that, but you also saw like the Leafs take chances.
Yeah.
But guys are pinching and there's no support. like how many times does it need to happen before you say, you know what? Let's make sure we're supporting the guy who's pinching. Because how many 2-on-1s, like, and the one that was bizarre was the Greer goal where David Camp is going to take a penalty and he stops. And I'm
Drop
like, look,
dick.
you're already taking the penalty. Just finish the play. Don't let the guy score. Like, don't drop your stick. It's
Yeah.
like that. I know he's trying to avoid getting the penalty, but
So
it's happening.
I don't remember. I was there live. Did the arm go up? Was that penalty already called? Like, was that a delayed penalty goal?
I didn't see. So I didn't physically see the penalty being called.
Yeah. Okay.
Like an arm going up. Because I was so focused on the actual play itself. Let me see if I can find. There was a good replay of it actually when
But
it
to your
happened.
point, Boston tonight had 9 odd man rushes. And that's not something that Toronto has been giving up a lot recently. Toronto's been pretty tight defensively, and they've been doing a good job of, controlling their gaps. And yeah, so here's the David Camp play where AJ Greer, this was to make it 3-1. This is right before the fight,
Right here.
right?
There's nothing from, as you can see, there's a ref in the corner there.
I don't think
Nothing
they were
from him.
calling it. I don't think they were going to call it. So he dropped his stick to negate that call, but then Greer just takes a rip. And again, Samsonov doing his best Matt Murray impression allows another one, high glove. Like,
So they were mentioning that on the post game broadcast when they were kind of discussing Samsonov's performance, and I think Sam Constantino was just like, he left too much of the net open there.
yeah.
It's like, whoa, where have I heard that one before?
Mhm.
Oh, right. The last time we saw Matt Murray.
Well,
play
the
again.
guy hasn't had a chance to do a whole lot of practice with the amount of games that he's been playing, just like getting a quick little skate in the mornings, but he hasn't really been able to practice and refine things. And, I think the break comes at a good time for this team. You could kind of tell that tonight, some of the guys were fighting it a little bit, maybe had an eye towards Miami or Cabo or whatever the hell they're going, which you hate. Obviously, you wanted them to get it done tonight, but they're gone for 9 days now. So it's a chance to regroup and for guys just to kind of get away for a bit, get their mind off things and come back and have a much better effort the post All-Star break. And the schedule gets real easy, actually. Like the first 5 games they play, they've got who they got? They got Chicago, Montreal. Actually, they first come back with a back-to-back against Columbus, a home and home against Columbus. And then they got like Montreal, Chicago, I think Seattle as well, I want to say, in the first 5 games. So those are winnable games, very winnable games that they could have there. Actually, no, I think it might be 2 against Chicago. Now I think about it. So it's like 2 against Chicago, 2 against Columbus, and then Montreal. Those are your 5 games out of the break. So let's go out there and win those ones. Let's put this one in the past and win it. All right, let's take one more quick break here, Dave. And when we get back, let's go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook app this year. The only app that you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in North America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's even better. They've got so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet on Super Bowl 57 next weekend with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to the point spreads to who will score a touchdown. You can also obviously bet on the hockey game tonight. Boston Bruins, who would have bet the money line or their point spread, you would have came away victorious. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Toronto dropping it 5-2 to the big bad Boston Bruins. Let's go through the good, the bad, and the ugly as we do after every Leafs loss. Hasn't been a whole lot of them on home ice this year, but we did have one tonight, so let's get to it. What was something that was good about tonight's game, though, Dave? Start pop.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we're picking at the scraps a little bit here, but I thought Mitch Marner, he had, out of all the Leafs players, he I think looked the more engaged offensively. He had the goal. I like, on the power play there. I know there was not a great play considering the play before they allowed the goal shorthanded, but then he responds by getting that goal, and he kind of gave the Leafs a little bit of life there. So I thought he had many chances. Would have liked if he had shot the puck a little bit more, and I felt like he was holding on to it a little bit too much.
Yeah,
but
he got the shoot from Scotiabank. Yeah, in that third period, he just, for whatever reason, didn't shoot the puck. Tried to dangle him again like he did the first time, and then tried to do it again a minute later, and didn't even get the shot off, unfortunately. And I believe, I'm going to check actually, because on FanDuel, his shot prop was 2.5, and I took it. And because he did not shoot on that play, it did not hit. He ended with 2 shots, and the over did not hit. It was also a -4 tonight, pal. Oof. Not a good night for Mitch Marner.
Not a good night defensively. I just thought he was the only one really pushing things on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, Cal Yarncroke was good too. I thought his goal, he was in the right spot where they needed to score from.
Good hand-eye for sure.
Yeah, it was a pretty smart play on his part.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I think like Samsonov in the first period. Okay, in the first period.
For 20 minutes.
For 20 minutes, he was fantastic. He stopped everything he faced in the first period. I think they had, how many shots they have in the first period altogether? I think they had like 14 shots maybe in the first period, 13 shots, 9 scoring chances, 2 considered high danger, which I don't know about that. I thought that there was quite a few dangerous shots there, dangerous looks that that Boston had in that first period. But regardless, I thought that he had to make a couple of really good stops. I mean, early on, there was the one on David Pastrnak, and then again, he makes the one on Hall after Hall gave the puck away behind the net. And then on that power play, he had to come up big and make a couple. So the first period, he was on his A game. And then he had another one, which was unbelievable. Who did he who was it that he robbed? Oh, when Pastrnak danced Morgan Riley. Gross. He robbed him on that play in the first period. Like that's one where if that was in the third, you would just assume that was going to be a goal. But in the first period, nah, man, he was on his A game. He, made a good stop on Pastrnak on a breakaway, and Clifton too. And then obviously we know what happened. But good in the first period. He was good in the first period, Dave.
He was good in the first. I don't know. I guess it's just he wasn't able to sustain it just because the chances the Leafs were giving up were just egregious in my opinion. That's what was bad. Like, actually, no.
I don't know, man. There was like the Greer goal you got to have.
See? Yeah, that was what was bad for me was the goals he let in were backbreaking because they were savable pucks.
That's it. Like he had a bad game. I don't think we can sugarcoat it. Played amazing in the first period, atrocious in the second and third. And ultimately the reason why they lost, because he just couldn't make a save for them in the back half of that game. I mean, I think that's fair to say. But we'll get there. Mm-hmm. What's the bad?
No, I thought that was the bad. That for me was the bad. Just
back half of the game, periods 2 and 3 for Samsonov.
Yeah, periods 2 and 3 for Samsonov were bad. Like even like the Zacha goal was like I understand it was a clear-cut chance on net, but it was a clear-cut chance that came from like I think just above the circle.
Dude, it was like probably 50 feet from the net.
Though, if we're going to be critical about Matt Murray giving up those goals, we're going to be very much critical of Samsonov giving up those goals too. Like that performance from tonight reminded me a lot about the one he had in Washington. I think it was what was it back in December? Was it?
Yeah. I think they lost 5-2 that one as well.
Yeah, it just like you could see the body language for me is that's where I know a goalie is just not in it when the body language isn't good. Like after the Zacha goal, he was not happy.
No.
And you could tell. Like obviously you're not gonna be happy when you give up a goal, but the body language for a goalie when they give up a goal like that tells me, yeah, he just doesn't have it right now.
Yeah, and he didn't. That was my bad as well. Obviously, was Samsonov in the second and third period. I just thought that actually that was my ugly. To be honest with you, it was my ugly was him in the second and third period. I mean, we've kind of roasted him on those goals, so we don't need to kind of keep going on it. But again, it's just that was the difference of tonight's game. There was one goalie who was making some pretty good stops, and then another goalie who was allowing some pretty bad goals. And it wasn't that he was allowing these superstars to score beauty goals on him. I mean, like the Brandon Carlo goal was from an awful angle, right? That's the second goal of the game. AJ Greer, we've already talked about. That's one that you got to stop. The fourth one, you got to stop. Even the first goal. I mean, the first goal kind of went right through. Honestly, the only goal where I could say, okay, he's got to pass was the fifth one, the cross ice to Zacha. The four others, savable. Definitely savable.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That was my ugly. I'll give you my bad. The Sandin and Liljegren pairing.
You and I have this completely flipped.
Okay. So why is it ugly for you?
Ugly.
I mean, they both were pretty ugly. We got two. I mean,
yeah, ugly and uglier, pretty much.
Exactly.
Because we literally coming into this podcast, coming into this game, we're kind of praising the Sandy and Liljegren pairing.
Yep.
And they made us look pretty bad tonight. First off, that's ugly. Don't make us look bad. And like Liljegren, I understand you're trying to, when you're down, you're trying to get your team going, but he was one of those players that got caught. There was a reason why David Kampf took that penalty, because he's covering for Liljegren, who makes an ill-advised pinch that leads to the 2-on-1. I'm not and then the goal where they were in their own zone for too long. I understand that the fourth line was also out there, but
hemmed by the top line of like one of Boston's big lines. But
like to me, if I'm Kyle Dubas and I watch how Sandy and Liljegren played in this game,
but even on that play though, like Liljegren had a couple opportunities to get the puck out of the zone and just was unable to do it. And that's what happens. That's how you end up getting hemmed in your own zone, right? When you have a chance to clear it and you don't, well, you've given possession right back to them. And eventually they're going to just wait, tire you out, and then find a little crease and, score a goal. And that's the exact way that it happened. It was an ugly goal that should not have been scored. That was the Carlo goal, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't, it was not a very beautiful goal by any means, but, what are you going to do? But yeah, -3 on the night for that pairing. Not great. And I believe it was 12, maybe 13 straight games that Liljegren had played without being on the ice for a goal at 5-on-5. It was quite remarkable, the streak that he'd been putting together for, a guy just not allowing goals, guys. He was playing so well that no one was scoring when he was out there on the ice. I mean, he was the save percentage was probably high. He was getting a little bit of puck luck, but you got to be lucky to be good. You got to be good to be lucky sometimes. But that wasn't the case tonight. Like I said, him and Liljegren, a -3, team high 1.2 expected goals against while they were out there in their 16 minutes of ice time. Wasn't a great night for that pairing. They gave up 13 scoring chances. They gave up 5 high danger chances, more than any other pairing, anybody else on the ice while they were out there. And they were even given like healthy offensive zone starts too. That's what's kind of weird about it is 71% O-zone starts, yet they ended up hemmed in their own zone half the time and were giving up shots and chances left, right, and center. And ultimately on the ice for 3 goals at 5-on-5, all of which at 5-on-5. So yeah, really tough night for that pairing, for sure.
Like that pairing thrives because they're not spending a lot of time in their own zone. They're not being hemmed in their zone because they can, they can disrupt the cycle. They can find ways to get the puck out. When that doesn't happen, tonight is an example of when it's not happening. They really do struggle, and they seem it's tough for them to pull out of it.
Yep, absolutely. It is. All right, Dave. Why don't we take one more quick break and hear from one of our show sponsors? And then when we get back, there's some house cleaning news. And we'll give a little update on where the team's at the All-Star break as well. So all that coming up on the other side. But first, a word from Built Bar.
Yes. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, and you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me and you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise on taste, then obviously I'm going to recommend a Built Bar. And I actually just placed an order for some Built Bars. They're selling out pretty fast, guys. So you got to get those orders in right now. Healthy, and it also shows that healthy can be tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You won't think they're good for you. They're actually the perfect New Year's resolution. What makes Built so good is, well, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right. I said 100% real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how they do it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining some amazing macros, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, they've been talking about getting built. We've been talking about getting built on Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bar. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, and coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. Now, if you're not able to head over to one of those places and you just want to go and purchase them online, you can definitely go and do that at Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your order at Built.com.
Welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Dave, we've got, well, I guess not breaking news, but I did see the Maple Leafs have decided to loan a couple of guys back down into the American League, Pontus Holmberg, and also they've also sent Joseph Woll down to the American League, who is an AHL All-Star, I might add. So he'll get to go and do that this weekend as Mitch Marner is off to Miami with those sweet skates. And why don't we take a look at where the Leafs are at the All-Star break, okay? So, I mean, when you looked at the beginning of the year, and I told you that this team at the All-Star break would be 31, 13, and 8 with a 673 points percentage and, have home ice advantage currently by All-Star break. What would you say about that?
I think, it's fair to say that almost a mirror of what last season was, and kind of the same things that are going well for the team are going well now. Some of the issues that I've still seen with the team last year, I'm still seeing this year. So I guess the concerning part is some of the issues they haven't learned from, but I will say that there are definitely more reasons to be optimistic. Going when the Leafs eventually do come back from the All-Star break. Like I'll say this, I have more faith in the goaltending this year than I did last year, even with Matt Murray going through his ups and downs with the injuries and stuff. But when I look at the trade deadline, I guess last year defense was the big thing that they need to target. Mark Giordano was eventually the trade that was made. I'm still on the fence of whether or not where exactly they need to go, and that's the issue I have with what I've seen so far this season is that you can make a case for both things at this point, and that's a tough place to be if you're Kyle Dubas.
So let's compare where they were a year ago to where they're at now. Because like I said, it's Groundhog Day, and it feels eerily similar to where this team's at today and where they were at a year ago. So, so from the start of the season until, well, I guess we'll say the 2nd/1st of February, we'll say... So the Maple Leafs this season have played 52 games. They have a win percentage of .673. Last season to this point, they'd only played 42 games. Because maybe they started out a little bit later. And also COVID shut things down for like 3 weeks. 42 games and have a .726 points percentage. So like it's very similar actually as to like they had more wins last year. They had a little bit better of a cushion last year. In terms of goals per game, 3.37 goals per game that they've scored this season. Last year, 3.6. So their goal scoring down a little bit. Goals against per 60, per game. 2.64 a year ago, 2.69 this season. So the goaltending has been relatively the same. But from the start of the season last year to February 2nd, allowing the same amount of goals, which I find to be interesting that, we have more faith in the goaltending this year than we did a season ago. Although, I guess how things ended after February, we know that it didn't go over very well. So I guess that makes a little bit of sense.
Well, that's it, right? I had faith in the Leafs goal in Jack Campbell up until he came back from the All-Star break.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
That's a good point.
Like that, and the reason, like, if you ask me right now, I will still take Matt Murray over Peter Mrazek. 1,000%. That's why I have more faith in the goaltender, because the only issue I have with Matt Murray is he's not available. But then you look at the third option that the Leafs had last year is Eric Shalgren, who wasn't bad. You know what? I'm curious to see. I mean, it looks like everyone's talking about maybe Joseph Woll will get a start when they come back, depending on where Matt Murray is. It didn't seem optimistic that he would be back right away.
Yeah, I think he will. One of those 2 games against Columbus, when they return back-to-backs, home and home, I think we will.
It makes so much sense to just give him a game against the worst team in the NHL. If you're going to give him a game, give him one against the worst team in the NHL.
Well, and like I said, I mean, Joseph Woll is not waiver eligible next year, or he requires waivers next season. So you might want to figure out what you got in this kid at the NHL level, or else somebody else will take the flyer. And if it hits, you're going to feel pretty dumb that you had a pretty good goalie chilling in your American League that you let go for nothing. So,
well, exactly, right? The Leafs have been knocked for not being able to draft and develop a goaltender. Well, actually, sorry, the Leafs did draft a good goaltender. They just traded him for Andrew Raycroft all those years ago.
You had to bring that up, didn't you? Tonight, of all nights, when they're facing the Boston Bruins. Yeah, really?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're a horrible person.
Hey, you know what's even funnier? The Buffalo Sabres, who could use a goaltender right now?
The team that
Linus Ullmark guy looks pretty good. Oh, wait, what team do you used to play for? The Buffalo Sabres?
Yeah. I said it was Djurgården, potentially. Djurgården in the Swedish Elite League, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Like, I said when the Bruins when the Sabres let go of Ullmark that they were making a mistake.
Yeah, I remember thinking that one of the Maple Leafs to go after Ullmark.
You wanted the Leafs to go after Ullmark. I remember that.
Yeah, I guess
I wasn't totally sold on him for the Leafs, but for the Bruins, it made sense.
Yeah. So goaltending is one thing. Special teams, is where this team is kind of lacking this year to where they were a year ago. And that is something that I think increasingly we can look into all next week when the Leafs are off. Just kind of look into the power play, maybe break it down. We'll bring on like a former player and see like what's going on here with this power play, with the penalty kill. Because this year operating at 25%, just still not bad. But power plays are a lot higher in today's world. Like I'm pretty sure, so 25% power play is 7th in the NHL. So it's not terrible, but last year they were number 1 and they were 30% success rate. And I mean that could be costly in some games. Like you expect for this team to score a couple more goals on the power play given the players that they have there. And that's been a big drop off from last season to this season is their power play success and special team success, because the penalty kill last year to this point in the season was terrific. 3rd in the National Hockey League at 84.4%. Fast forward to currently where they sit, not top 3, not top 10, 16th with a 79.4 kill rate. That's just not what I anticipated seeing for the Maple Leafs this season. And, I'm not saying that it's a reason why their record isn't as good as it was from a year ago, but certainly something that I wouldn't mind shoring up. And when I'm looking into, what I want to see from a potential add at the deadline, guys who can help on special teams, whether that's the second power play unit or it's the penalty kill, that's kind of what I would like for them to add in terms of, some depth pieces, guys who can also help you out in special teams.
Yeah. Well, because like Jake Muzzin played a big part in the penalty kill last year, and you're missing him. I know you kind of think you're switching Giordano for Muzzin, but
not the same.
You also had Muzzin and Giordano in the playoffs last year.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good combination there. Brody's been hurt, so that's also impacted it a little bit. But I think what it also shows is getting Connor Timmins in the lineup would help that second power play unit, I believe, a tad. The problem is you can't trust Connor Timmins on the penalty kill. So like to have him, and you don't have a good spot for him in the lineup right now. So yeah, I also think they need that up front. When you look at adding a player at the deadline, if that player can't play on the penalty kill, I will look elsewhere. Like try to get someone that can score, but has the defensive acumen, because tonight shows that some guys just were not willing to make the effort on defense to help the defensemen who are struggling tonight.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with the Maple Leafs over the next little bit, but they'll just, I guess we can kind of continue going on here. Where are they in terms of shots? Like what type of shot generation are they getting this season to last year? So last season to this point, they were generating 34.3 shots per game. I don't think they're generating as much this year. 31.9. So their shots per game are even going down. So they're just not generating more. Probably similar opportunities if I looked at the underlying numbers. But just in terms of shots in general, just like the soft number, averaging about 3 shots less a game. And that said, they're also averaging less shots against per game. Last season, they're averaging 30 against. This year, just 28. So, a little bit better in that regard. But so far, that's the only statistic that's actually been better in comparison from last year to this year, up until the February 2nd date, I guess, that we've said here. So, just a fun little look back to see where the Leafs are at now compared to where they were at this point a year ago. And, we'll see what they do on the other end of the All-Star break, right? We'll be here. We'll be here to chat about it all. We'll even be here to kind of tee up the All-Star game and the whole weekend's festivities tomorrow. We'll come back, do a little Friday show for you guys. I also have a list, a power ranking that I'll be putting out. The 5 most attractive trade assets that the Toronto Maple Leafs possess. So we'll also do that maybe early next week. We will put out that power ranking. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasting platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Also, make sure that you subscribe, leave a like and a comment on YouTube as well. You can also leave a review on iTunes. That'd be greatly appreciated. A little rating as well. I will be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.